story that right now is causing mass outrage, and fair enough too.
Yeah.
Is that involving Alicia Schiller? Alicia Schiller is a convicted murderer. She's serving time for the death of Tyrell Gentle. She was murdered in front of her son for $50. There was a dispute over $50. And it's now emerged that this woman, Alicia Schiller, is undergoing treatment for IVF while in prison.
So she's allowed to leave the prison and do her IVF treatment, which is self-funded. She's paying for it, and then come back to the prison. So there's corrections officers taking her to these appointments. We're using resources, which, sure, we're not paying for the IVF, but we're using resources for this woman to be able to access this treatment.
And then
to become a mother, well, she's serving time for murdering another mother in front of her own children.
Yep.
A dispute over $50.
Appalling.
Plus the fact that a child then would be born into the system.
Which happens, right? Because some people do end up incarcerated when they are pregnant.
Well, look, I want to bring in Tim Watson-Munro. He's trying to get your head around this crazy. I know.
It's horrendous.
He is a criminal psychologist. He's also the host of Motive and Method, a true crime podcast. Tim, thanks for joining us. Is she...
Morning.
Like, I'm a parent of 3 kids, right? And I know my job is to teach them right from wrong. I find I'm trying to get my head around that we're going to let this lady go from jail to become a mum to then try and teach a child right from wrong. Like, has she got the ability to do that?
Is she fit to be a mother, firstly?
Well, I've not examined her, but I'd make this comment. We've come a long way from the days of the gallows, haven't we, where people were executed for murder.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We now have a situation based on a Supreme Court finding that prisoners have the right to access private health. Personally, speaking in general principles, I understand the outrage in the community. This was a horrendous crime involving the stabbing murder of a mother with 3 children, with a 4-year-old child present at the time. So I guess it's a balancing decision about rehabilitation versus punishment. My view in terms of the question you've raised is what sort of environment would a child be exposed to being raised for the first 5 to 6 years in a prison?
Yeah.
Years ago, I was a psychologist at Parramatta Jail.
Right.
I was involved in the Mother and Babies program. Then that related to women who went into prison when pregnant, and they were allowed to keep the child for about 12 months before the child went into the community. We're talking here 5 to 6 years of child rearing in a maximum security jail. As you rightly point out, the taxpayer bears the brunt for that.
Is it even safe for the child?
Sorry to cut you off. I understand. I believe in second chances. I really do. But there's limits to that. And I understand women who go into prison who are pregnant and who are obviously in that position, and they have the right, absolutely, to have that child. But to take someone out of prison and allow them to do this while they're serving a sentence for murdering somebody else, I'm sorry, you've lost your right to be allowed to do this, if you ask me.
Well, I think it beggars belief. And, you know, is it going to open the gates for Rort Central, where everyone says, well, look, I'll find the money to do this. I'll have an IVF program. Or if you're a bloke, you have some sort of treatment, vasectomy reversals, facelifts. Where do you draw the line?
Exactly right. Exactly right.
I think the message it sends is, well, there's 2 things. I mean, my heart goes out to the family of the victim. They are justifiably outraged by this.
Yeah.
You have 3 children deprived of a mother, 1 little boy who is deprived of both parents because his father died shortly before his mother was murdered, the parents of the deceased and so on. They would feel that this is a real slap in the face. And I think in general terms, people in Victoria are wondering what's going on with law and order.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I couldn't agree more.
Tim, we'll leave it there. Tim Watson-Munro, criminal psychologist and the host of Motive and Method True Crime
Thanks,
podcast.
Thanks, Tim. And look, 132410, if you want to get involved, if you want to weigh in on this topic, because it is a very controversial one. We talk about the privileges that come with being a parent. Surely you don't get afforded those privileges if you've taken somebody else's life,
Absolutely
right?
not.
Now, Jim and Yvonne Gentle are the mum and dad of Tyrell, who did lose her life at this convicted killer. They had a word on the Today Show a short time ago and a message for the government.
Wake up, do the right thing for a change. Think of your people. Do what's right. Don't be giving privileges to criminals. I mean, there's plenty of people out there that deserve much better, that deserve to be listened to and heard. And here you are paying your attention to criminals.
Now, just pointing out a bit of backstory to which Tim alluded to, this isn't so much a government decision. This is a right afforded because of a Supreme Court decision dating back 15 years ago,
2010.
which basically gives prisoners the right to private healthcare, and IVF falls under
Tim,
the private healthcare banner.
Where do you draw the line
That's
with
like,
that?
That's what he said. He's like, do we let people get facelifts?
Exactly.
And I'll tell you what, I am yet to talk to someone about this story that thinks she should be allowed out to do it.
And forgive me if I'm wrong, but I had people telling me yesterday that a lot of people, I don't know if it's everyone, you have to do a police check to undergo IVF?
Yep. We
So,
one of our kids was IVF.
And did you have to do a police check?
Yeah.
So what on earth is going on?
I don't get it, Lauren. Hey, look,
13, 24, 10. I think Melbourne is just absolutely outraged by this, Jace. Like you said, I don't know a single person who thinks this is a just system.
Not at all. If you'd like to join the show, phone lines are open. Tim, thanks very much for your time, and our thoughts go out to the victim's family, and also
they've got to relive all of the heinous
also,
things they went through all those years ago. Now,
a lot of people trying to have babies. It's a bloody emotional time. I've been through it. It can be horrible, and this would be triggering for them as well. Here's this lady, being afforded the luxury of getting out of jail to go and do it.
Yeah, Tyrell's son spoke in the Herald Sun today. He doesn't have a mum.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the long and the short of it.
It's just wrong.
It's
wrong.
Just gone 4 to 8. That's the news story that Melbourne is talking about this morning, Clint.
That's right. Alicia Schiller is her name. She's currently serving a prison sentence for murdering a poor young woman, a young Melbourne woman. We were joined a short time ago by a criminologist who had this to say about the case.
Well, I think it beggars belief. And, is it going to open the gates for Rort Central, where everyone says, well, look, I'll find the money to do this. I'll have an IVF program. Or if you're a bloke, you have some sort of treatment, vasectomy reversals, facelifts. Where do you draw the line?
Exactly right. That's the question.
So this woman's in prison for murdering another young mum.
Mm-hmm. Tyrone Gentle.
While she's serving time for murdering that woman, she has been allowed the privilege of leaving prison to undergo IVF treatment.
Yeah.
She's got, I think, 6 years remaining on her sentence. So if she falls pregnant, she'll have a baby in prison. The baby will be taken off her after a year, I think. Or does the baby get brought up in prison? Not sure. Either way, there's a grieving mother and father out there who have had their child taken from them, and 3 children who have been left without a mother because of this. It's a horrific story.
We are
and
yet
it's outrageous.
to chat with someone that thinks it should be allowed. We're about to go to the phones because Melbourne wants to talk about it, but just remember, a lot of kids in cars heading to school at this time as well. So just let's go to Nicole in Doreen. Nicole, what's your thoughts?
Guy, I'm just a bit of, flabbergasted, you could say. My husband and I went through IVF for our 2 daughters. Mm-hmm. First one, everything was obviously okay. Second one, we had to go through and have a police check done and everything to make sure that obviously we were going to be suitable to raise a child.
Yeah.
So this is
bring a child into the world and everything. And the funny thing is, my husband's actually a police officer, so it's like they've had to go and obviously check him to make sure he's suitable, but yet he's been in the police force for 30-odd years.
So you have to go and do a police. This is what I don't understand, because Jace, you were saying you went through the same. You have to do a police check. Yet this woman's in prison, found guilty and charged with murder.
So Jace, what did they tell you? What's that police check for?
It's like getting a working with children's card. Basically, it's like looking at your history, if you've done any violent crimes, and exactly like what Nicole said. It's basically seeing if you're fit to bring a child into this world. And I can tell you now, if she's passed hers, then I think we have to put a question over the bloody police check. Lucy in Seaford, you think you know the reason, or you've hit the nail on the head here with another reason why she might want to have a baby?
I do. I think that she's worked out that the women in the mother-baby units are getting better treatment than the general population in a prison. and she's going to have this baby, and then she's going to get the better treatment for almost the remainder of her sentence.
So
I feel she doesn't care that this baby is going to get taken away from her in 5 to 6 years, or that it's going to end up in foster care. She's looking at herself, and that she wants better treatment for near the rest of her sentence.
So I assume she's serving time at Dame Phyllis Frost, which is a high security women's prison, and I assume also they have a mothers and babies unit.
They would, 100%, and obviously they get better treatment because there's children involved. And she's just looking for a bit of a luxury life for the remainder of her sentence.
Well, she's also allowed out of the prison to go and, like, she's under watch, but she's allowed out of the prison to go and undergo this treatment. And like we were talking about before, understandably, prisoners are allowed the right to private health, but there's got to be some common sense that prevails.
1,000%.
Jessica in Ringwood, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. How are you?
We are good.
Hey, Jess.
So I'm just ringing. This has really struck hard for me. I actually cannot believe that it's going on, to be honest. So I personally have experienced the broken youth mental health system in Victoria, as well as the department foster care system.
Right.
So my son had a mental health breakdown about 2 years ago, and then he was taken out of our care because he was deemed too unsafe for my other 2 children.
Okay.
Wow.
So then from that point, we've for 2 years have been battling getting the help that he requires, mixed with being housed in a situation that is suitable for him, which has been virtually impossible because there's not enough funding in either system, in the foster care system or in the mental health system for child and youth. So with that, I then think, well, I'm, an average person that works herself to the bone to make things happen, but cannot access what my own children need to their detriment. And then there's this woman who, yes, she can afford to have IVF, but it's all the long-term costs that are associated with it.
Absolutely.
This child is going to need mental health help, regardless of whether she's placed with kinship care, foster care. This is not a normal situation.
No, it isn't.
But look, we keep talking about and probably getting back to the fact that becoming a parent and parenthood is a privilege, right? And it's something that so many people fight so long and so hard for. And the moment that she took somebody else's life, that privilege should have been stripped from her.
100%.
Especially while she's serving time in prison.
100%. While she is serving time, she's lost that right to do things that free, good citizens have access to.
As a dad of 3 young kids, I take it very serious that my job is to teach kids, my 3 kids, what is right and what is wrong. And I think that's a pretty hard job to do when you are in jail for murder.
Look, I'm a big believer in second chances. I absolutely am. But when you're in prison serving time for taking someone else's life,
once she's rehabilitated and back in the community, your rights are restored.
Yes.
But
right now, I'm sorry, the system is broken if this is being allowed.
Yeah.
It's appalling. It's appalling.
It is just gone 8:09. Thank you very much for your calls. Any updates to the story, we'll obviously get it on the air for you here on Nova.
It's gonna be a good day. Jason Lauren.
Wake up feeling good.
On Nova 100.
Jason Lauren.
Follow them on socials. Nova.